I want everyone in here to close your eyes. Picture yourself on a plane. You can go anywhere you'd like in the world. Okay, you guys can open them now. Some of you may have all thought of going to countries in Europe, or maybe going back to Hawaii, but I personally thought of going back to South Africa. I've personally visited Cape Town, South Africa 4 times now, partially because my dad is actually South African. But I've grown to love the country so much, and I appreciate all the beauty it has to offer. So that's why I'm here today, to inform you guys on some of the history of the overall country, and then focus in on Cape Town and share some of the famous landmarks there is there, and then some of the fun things there are to do. So to start off with the history, South Africa was actually first colonized in 1652 by the Dutch India Company. According to the source from the South African government that writes about the history of the country, it was originally colonized in order to give fresh food to passing ships, but then it later started to be more colonized in order to grow some crops. In 1795, the British started to flood into South Africa, and they ended up taking control from the Dutch. The Dutch eventually took it back from the British, but then in 1806, the British finally got it back and took it back for good. So in 1910, the South African Union was formed, and it was primarily formed with white males. And in order to protest that and in opposition to it, in 1912, the African National Congress was formed. The start of the unions led to the beginning of apartheid. So apartheid, according to an article called Apartheid on History.com in 2010, literally translates to separation. The all-white government began to enforce laws of segregation really similar to the ones that we saw during the Civil Rights Movement here in America. And so although there was a lot of opposition against this policy, it was not repealed for 50 years. So during the time when apartheid was still in place, a lot of leaders started to come up because they were fighting for the change, and they ended up going to jail for that. And so one you might recognize is Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela is somebody that I grew up learning a lot about because he fought for change, and he also went to jail for 27 years because of that. The majority of his time in jail was spent on this island here, called Robben Island, and he spent 18 out of his 27 years there. In order to honor him, South Africa actually made the jail into a museum that you can now visit, and the island is now a landmark and a World Heritage Site. So I personally visited the island before, and they offer a ton of tours that show you the inside of the jail, so you get to see the cells and what they look like, and like the living conditions. And as well as that, you get to see a ton of pictures of the people who fought for change in the country. So it's really sad, but it's also really important to see how much the country has actually progressed since the apartheid policy. There's a ton of other landmarks in Cape Town. One you guys may have heard of is Table Mountain. And so Table Mountain, according to an article on tablemountain.net that was published in 2012, is actually considered one of the 7 wonders of nature in the world. The mountain itself is 3,558 feet tall, so just to put that in perspective, it's about 2.21 miles high. And the reason why it's called Table Mountain is because, as you can see in the picture, the top of the front side is really flat, so it kind of resembles a table. And my favorite part, about looking at the mountain, is when there's a ton of clouds covering the top, and the locals say that there's a tablecloth over it. And so, other than landmarks, there's a ton of other fun things to do in Cape Town, including a lot of hikes. My personal favorite is Lion's Head, so that's going to be on your guys' far left, right there. And it's called Lion's Head because they say that it looks like the top looks like a lion's head. I haven't personally seen it that much to be able to say, I've seen it, but I can't really tell that it looks like a lion's head. But according to an article called Climbs Lion's Head in the Moonlight by Carrie Murray on afar.com, the mountain itself is 2,195 feet tall, and it's located right in between Table Mountain and Signal Hill. So when you climb the top of the mountain, you actually get a panoramic view of the entire city. So in the picture on your guys' left, I actually took these last time I climbed it. You can see Table Mountain and the city below it, and then on your guys' far right, you can see a mountain range called the 12 Apostles and a ton of beaches below there as well. So as well as that, for all you foodies out there, there's a ton of food spots for you guys. There's a ton of fresh seafood places, Indian food, Italian. But if you want more of the South African experience, Kirstenbosch National Botanical Garden is the place for you guys. And so that is this right here. And at the start of the garden, there's actually a tea house, and there they serve tons of cakes and coffees. But the best thing that they serve there is the authentic tea platter, so it has a ton of mini sandwiches. So you basically get to enjoy a great meal, and you get to look at the backside of Table Mountain, and you get to see all the gardens there as well. South Africa is often overlooked as a great vacation spot because all of the stereotypes that come with it itself. But the country itself is filled with tons of history, beautiful landmarks, and so many fun things to do. So maybe next time you close your eyes and think of a place you want to travel to, South Africa will pop into your mind.
We have to stop this.